Welcome to Lit&Bruised, an Atlanta literary podcast. I'm Matt DeBenedictis.
And I'm John Carroll.
Hey, y'all. It's just me doing this intro by myself right now. John's currently helping getting things ready for the newest Transgression. Second star to the right, Hook's Revenge. For those that don't know, Transgression is an immersive live lit series that turned into theater and still kept the immersive parts. It's put together by John, Laura Relier, Elizabeth Jarrett, and Dear Bear Wolf. This edition is the final of their Peter Pan story. It's actually part 3. It's going to be at Dante's Down the Hatch in underground Atlanta on March 22nd, 23rd, 24th, and also the 29th, 30th, and 31st. Transgression events are not to be missed. They are fantastic, they are inspiring, and they are a hell of a lot of fun. There is nothing like it in Atlanta. Bar none. You can't come at me and say, hey, Matt, what about this? Kiss my ass. You're wrong. I mean, yeah, I guess I can say kiss my ass to promote an event, but it really is that good. But yeah, Transgression events sell out quick. DearBearWolf.com. Also want to remind everyone of the sweepstakes that we have happening. The sweepstakes is to win books and chapbooks from everyone who has been on Lit&Bruised from season 1 and this current season 2. So that's books and chapbooks from Tom Cheshire, Elena Huff Tucker, Jamie Iredale, Molly Brodak, Laura Relier, Blake Butler, Dope Girls Magazine, Teresa Davis, Carrie Lorick, Nate Mask, Ryan J., Jared Yates Sexton, and I'm pretty sure there's a couple more in there. But all you got to do to win this is put a review up on iTunes, Stitcher, or Spreaker about Lit&Bruised. I mean, it could be, we hope it's a positive one. If you want to put a negative one up, we'll probably still give you the books anyway if we select you, because it's just going to be at random. But that's all you got to do. Just put a comment on one of those sites. Easy as could be to win a big old box of kick-ass Atlanta books. But anyway, today's episode is a really fun one. It's an entire reading episode of coming-of-age stories with two of our favorite Atlanta writers, Stephen Williams and Jyll Thomas. And at the last minute, another writer was supposed to read, and they had to back out. So John stepped in and read when he hadn't read for a while. So it's a lot of fun. We have some great conversations, and we hope you enjoy the episode.
Welcome to another episode of Lit&Bruised. Today is actually another reading episode. This one is on coming of age, which is kind of the classic novel style, the classic protagonist. I mean, of course, you know, you're talking about coming of age, you're talking about J.D. Salinger, you're talking about Stephen King, and you're talking about Philip Roth, and probably my favorite coming of age story was S.E. Hinton's The Outsiders. What about you, John?
I like The Outsiders. That was a good one. I like, I could probably sit there and I was actually looking around online earlier. Mm-hmm. There are so many, but I really liked Lord of the Flies because it was such like a fucked up coming of age story, you know?
Coming of age, you're an animal.
Yeah, I did like, I did really like The Body by Stephen King, Stand By Me. If you, most of us have seen that movie. I mean, that's a very classic, you know. And then even at the end of it, you know, they at least in the movie version, they stop being friends because this time happens. You know, they just grow apart, and next thing you know, you don't know somebody anymore that you hung out with every day when you were 12. You know, so I felt like that was very relatable, and probably is to most people. Probably not finding a body on the side of the train tracks, that's probably not very relatable. But
I relate to that.
Yeah. I relate to the adventure aspects of it, you know, but not like, I never was like looking for a dead body. When I was a kid, we mainly were looking for porn. We would go through the construction sites in my neighborhood, and like where our dad's collections are trying to find this, because it was, you know,
so there'd
80s.
just be porn all over construction sites.
No, we would just hope there would be, though. You know? We never really found any. I actually wrote a story about this like 5 years ago. I read it at the Star Bar, which was like the appropriate place to read it.
Time to make this bedroom frame. Oh, got to put my Playboy down.
No, seriously, I read this whole story about how, you know, being adolescent boys, you're just looking for porn all the time. Well, at least, in the 80s and 90s before the internet hit, you were like,
old school.
Yeah, you were like on channel 99 and just looking at the static. And maybe this is crass, but I'm pretty sure anybody listening to this, like, especially if you're a guy, like when you're 12, shit, man, you're just horny and you're just looking for everything you got. Now you got the internet, so
there's
it's like easy to find it. Yeah,
kids today are weak. Well, guests today we have Stephen Williams and Jyll Thomas.
And we had a third reader, but unfortunately, due to the holiday schedule, they had to drop. So I'm going to be filling in today with a story that I haven't read in about 4 years.
Yeah,
but it was only read out loud once, and it wasn't recorded. So it was actually a Winston Blake Wheeler Ward's book release. For, There Appeared a Sadness. I don't know, his divorce book. I don't know.
Which is very fitting you bring this up because last time, Jyll, Stephen, that we saw both of you were reading together at Winston's case studies over at Carvana Coffee Shop.
And we thought, hey, we're just going to make this happen again in my living room. So thank you all so much for joining us today.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you for having us.
Sure. So how are we going to kick this off? We're going to start off with Stephen?
Yeah, I think so.
So again, coming of age stories, and we've got Stephen Williams. Stephen, I've done a couple things with you. I think this is the second thing we've done.
Yeah.
You read with you did a transgression pop-up. Or no, you didn't. It wasn't a transgression. It was just
it's at the Phoenix Fest. It was the
Halloween
story.
Yeah, with Winston and I. But I got to be honest with you, man. I don't know a damn thing about you. I don't know. I don't have like bios. I don't know anything. So fill us in. Tell us about yourself.
Not really much.
Whatever. Every person's a universe.
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of the universe is empty and boring.
All right, fair enough.
I don't know. I am a massage therapist currently. I have 2 dogs. One's 11 and one's 10.
Yeah.
Just moved in with roommates.
Nice. Single and looking.
One of the roommates is my brother. And the other is like just like one of my friends' girlfriends, which is kind of unfair. Like it's just another homie at this point.
Yeah,
so
yeah. Well, no, I just meant for you though. Like, are you single?
Well, yeah, but it's way out of the way. But I kind of had to get way out of the way. It's not like the bar story we were talking about, where you're just like next door.
Totally.
Like, no, I'm in the woods.
Hey, man,
which is good.
Hey, ladies like looking, or men like they like hanging out in the woods.
Hey, you don't know anything about me.
Hey, I don't know jack shit, man. So, but so how long have you been writing for?
Probably forever.
Yeah.
Like I kind of started doing the whole like live scene thing March 2015 ish.
Okay,
I went to Naked City.
Okay, great.
And I actually this story I'm going to read is from Naked City, and I think the theme was creation.
Okay.
And the first thing I thought was, well, everybody's going to do a Bible story. I can't do Genesis. Like I can't do that.
Yeah.
Actually, the theme might have been Genesis, which is why I thought that. But yeah, no, that was the first time I met Gina Rikiki.
Yeah.
And I've just kind of been like a fan ever since. Like I was horrified. That was the first time I had ever read anything, and I got up there and I was horrified and I was like shaking.
Yeah.
And they did their whole thing, and right before I read, she like touched me on the arm slightly, and she said, "You're gonna do great." And I was like, "Oh, I'm still horrified, but that meant a lot." But
coming from Gina, I mean, she's very,
Yeah.
she's a powerhouse, man. So
definitely, yeah.
We've had her on once, and we loved having her, and we've actually talked about just trying to have her on every episode, and actually maybe just replacing us as the host. Just make Jesus the host of
work,
Lit&Bruised. Yeah,
just Lit&Bruised garbage hour. Just run it
exactly.
But,
it'd be better than what we do. So, just kidding. Well, at least what I do. Matt does a wonderful job. I'm
just good at faking things.
I just ramble a lot, So but Gina, we love you if you're listening. Well, hey, do you want to give us some? So you're reading about creation and Genesis. Any other context that you want to give us before you dive in?
Basically, all of my stories, which like I've actually been writing since I've been reading Goosebumps in elementary school. It's like, this would be gross and weird. Let's write about it. But they're just kind of all things that actually happened to me. Calling it fiction is just really bullshit.
Yeah.
It's just, this thing happened to Steven. And if it's really like personal and sentimental, then I write it from the perspective of a girl. It's like, they'll never know it was me.
Yeah.
But,
hide your sources.
You got it. But it's just kind kind of like a day in the life of this girl and something that happens that turns she's coming of age. It's something that starts in her life that's like monumental to her.
So this is about Stephanie.
This is about Stephanie.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Your alter ego.
Yeah, I didn't even give her a name because I think I just called her Stephanie in my head.
You got Stephanie.
Stephanie Williams.
Yeah, man. Hey,
but yeah, so
nothing wrong with that. But well, cool, man. Well, we're so excited to have you on the show, and we're excited to hear your piece. So why don't you take it away?
All right. She found their first album in the back of a poorly lit record store, wedged between Paul Simon and Cat Stevens, in the wrong place both alphabetically and by genre. The album art was a mess of sweaty hair and leather jackets, and she knew that it belonged to her. She carried her treasure home under her jacket and stashed it between box spring and mattress, far from her father's religious sensibilities. In a month, she had their entire discography and could tell you about every tattoo on each band member and what they meant, if anything. Granted, that's not too big a task for a dedicated fan of a power trio. She could name the song before the first chord was struck, going only off the feedback from the guitar. She kept her anti-skip CD player in her backpack, and it stayed charged on a steady diet of TV remote pilfered batteries. During the colder months, she sat at the back of the class with earbuds wired up through jacket sleeves. When spring came, she painted the wires the same color of her skin using a boyfriend's art supplies. She was never caught. The band itself was loud, messy, and on the whole, not very good. Each song was a near indistinguishable 3-minute blast of sloppy pentatonics over a shaky backbeat. The whole thing was held together with passable bass playing. It was the low end that captivated her. When the house was empty, she played her contraband on the stereo in the living room, adjusting the volume until she could feel it in her chest. In time, she gathered the courage to say how she felt. She found the words at the dinner table as she sat across from her father and picked at cold spinach. "Dad," she said, "I want to play bass guitar." "Girls don't do things like that," her father said, without looking up from his plate. It would stand as the only conversation they would have regarding music. On Saturdays, her father would leave the house around 8 to make it to the loading docks in time for the first shipment of the day. This was usually her invitation to sleep well into the afternoon without being bothered about what was right and proper for a girl her age. This morning, however, she was out of bed and dressed before his truck left the driveway. In the back of her closet was a shoebox stuffed with wrinkled bills. The delight of having a summer job dissipated rather quickly when they told her that she would have to buy her uniform. She spent the sunniest days of the year bagging groceries and the rainiest days corralling shopping carts. The bit of cash she squirreled away before school began was designated as her emergency fund. She pocketed all of it. In an hour, she was on public transit headed downtown. In another hour, the owner of A1 Pawn and Jewelry placed her emergency fund in his register. In her hands was a bass guitar, seafoam green and heavy as hell. The neck was warped, the jazz-styled pickup was rusted through, and the price was much too high for an Indonesian knockoff. It was perfect. Her last $2 got her on the return bus home, and she hugged it tight the entire way. Once she was in her room, she pushed the guitar under her bed, concealing it behind dirty laundry and unread magazines. She knew that there was a time and place for things. Not right now, of course, but at night, when the world was asleep, when it felt more like a sin. While her father snored in his bedroom, the streetlights shined through her window, casting shadows on the fretboard. She had no tuner, no amplifier, and no clue how to play. The strings felt like ropes under her hands, and pressing them down hurt her fingers. She sat on the floor, using her thumb to strum all 4 strings, her left hand twisting the tuning pegs one way, then the other. She held her head low and hummed, as if she were rocking a child to sleep. This was the beginning.
Damn, that was really, really good. Thanks, Stephen.
Thank you.
Have you ever read that before? Out loud? Only at Naked City?
Naked City, and there was iDrum. There's...
That story sounds familiar, but I don't think I was at either of those readings. I really enjoyed it.
No, the iDrum one you would know because it was in a warehouse. It was about like 106 degrees.
Yeah.
There was like no heat, no air
You have the
conditioning.
emotional scars.
You know what? Maybe I just...
You weren't there. Yeah.
Maybe it just seemed familiar to me because it was about coming of age and, I felt that.
Well, you guys picked the prompt, so good job on that.
Hey,
Did this kind of come from, because I've heard you mention before that you play guitar. Mm-hmm. Did that kind of play a factor into the story?
Was literally exactly the story. Like, I'm telling you, it's really, really a far cry to call it fiction. But no, the band is Guitar Wolf. Like,
Okay.
that's just the band that I, like, when I was that age, I was like, holy shit, this is amazing. Which it's not. To everyone listening, if you haven't heard them, don't. It's basically a Japanese Ramones wannabe, but I didn't know what good music was, so I was like, holy shit, this is what I need. And
They're a lot of fun, though. I mean, they did that one horror movie as well, too.
Wild Zero, yeah.
Yeah.
Watched it. Yeah, watched it for Halloween. There's a drinking game that goes with that. I don't recommend it. But
what's the drinking game?
It's on the DVD.
I know it's anytime someone says rock and roll.
Anytime someone says rock and roll, anytime fire shoots out of something, which it regularly shoots out of microphones.
Yeah.
A head explodes. A zombie like bites somebody. Like it's or somebody takes a drink. So you're just good and gone by the time the movie's over, or halfway through, really. But yeah, I bought the same bass guitar that Bass Wolf uses.
Okay.
And I brought it home, and my mom looked at it and she said, "What'd you buy that for? You ain't gonna learn how to play it." And I thought, well, shit, now I have to.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of where it's been. Like, if she didn't say that, I'd probably never have actually learned.
I mean, yeah,
But
you got the challenge right there.
yeah, it was like, all right, well, I've got to do this thing. So I just did it.
What was the first song you learned on bass?
Come As You Are, of course.
That's a solid bass line.
Yeah, that basically, yeah, all of Nevermind.
Okay.
Like, that was just sort of like On a Plane was the most fun, but yeah, just all of that album. At least the chorus parts and like the intro, like all the like, oh, well, this is the bridge. It's like, well, you know, people don't recognize that. I want to sound cool. And had a girlfriend for a while off of that, so it worked.
Yeah.
It's all good.
So strange the things that people are attracted to.
Bass guitar, yeah.
I mean, hey, whatever works. Do you still play guitar?
Oh yeah, all the time.
You're in any bands at all?
I was in a band a really long time ago with a couple of friends. We called it Space Hound Battalion, which was really an excuse to just get high a lot. But I think like we might have played for a year and made 3 songs.
So no shows or anything?
No shit, nothing like that.
Yeah.
We played in a barn in the back and like just had the cops called on us a lot. A lot of fun.
Yeah.
A lot of fun. Like a bunch of Craigslist drum sets and yeah, just a bunch of trash. Like recorded on a cassette player.
I remember my buddy was in a band when we were in high school. It was this punk band. And they would practice in his garage, and this guy up the road would always come down and yell at them. And then they wrote a song called "The Guy Up the Road is Such a Dick." And that was literally like
Very subtle.
Yeah, that was the only line, and it was like a 10-second song. It was like this like crazy bass or crazy drum fill, and then just like slamming their guitars around, and then "That guy up the road is such a dick." That was it.
We had a guy up the road, but he also played guitar. But he's one of those like older guys that only play like Stevie Ray Vaughan licks.
Yeah,
and so he would come over and he's like, "Hey, you know, I want to play with you guys." And we had like those 5-hour-long cassettes from CVS. You just hit record and go.
Yeah.
I remember the first time we got done playing that the cassette was just over.
Yeah.
And I was like, how long have I been out here? And so we just kind of hid when he came around because he just liked it so much. So it was the opposite effect, but still it's like, dude, I gotta hide from that guy. So
Yeah, you've opened up something that's totally not worth pursuing.
yeah. He called me recently. I don't know how he got my number. I need to change it again.
Whoa.
Yeah, no. He was like, "Hey, you remember me?" I was, "No, who are you?" He's like, "I sold you the Sunbird, you know, and we played guitar. I was wondering, you still play?" I was like, "No hablo inglés. I'm sorry, man, I'm gone." But yeah, it was a strange experience. But
actually, I bought a guitar. I bought a bass about 3 months ago. I played in high school, and then I sold it to move to Europe because I was like, I'm never going to do anything with this. And so I bought an acoustic bass, and I played it about 10 times, and then it's got really busy. And I think I'm going to play it. This is the week between Christmas and New Year, so I'm kind of excited to bust it out. But I wasn't as bad at bass as I thought I was, because I mean I'm not very good at it. But I like picked it up and I like taught myself some songs and remembered some things. I was like, okay, I like
that's
it.
more than me. I mean, I tried to learn bass when I was like 15 or 16.
Yeah.
so we all have a bass story. Like not even guitar, like specifically
just
bass.
specifically
All right.
Bass story?
Oh, no.
No bass story.
No, I have no musical talent whatsoever.
Do you like to like drop the bass? You like bump in your car? Like hit, like,
that face shows
that face was the answer.
You're more of like a Bauhaus Susie and the Banshees gal, so you weren't like bumping.
No, I don't think
like
so.
NWA.
No, I know that band, but
yeah.
No.
Oh, that's so cute.
Like that was adorable. I know that band.
Well, hey,
swell guys, them.
Well, with that, Stephen, thank you so much. We're going to transition and talk to Jyll, maybe about goth rock or something like that. Because hey, Marilyn Manson, he did like a rap video for.
Did he?
He covered "Tainted Love," and it was like a rap video.
Was it a rap? I don't know.
Yeah, we were making fun of the whole type of rap videos that were happening at that time.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a rap song.
Out.
Yeah, it was actually pretty funny.
That's who should be making fun of people. Marilyn Manson.
Yeah, exactly. Jyll, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Great. We're doing all right over here. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted.
So, tell us about yourself. Tell the audience, the listeners, who is Jyll Thomas?
My goodness. Let's see. I'm a writer, and I've been performing, I think, for the past 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
At live literature events.
You were on WABE recently, probably about a year ago, right?
Yes. That was super exciting.
I remember that. I remember hearing. What story did you read on there?
I read another, fiction based on fact story about setting my parents' shed on fire, my grandmother threatening to throw me in the lake. So
were you on City Lights? What show were you on?
I think it was City Lights. It was like storytellers,
nice.
Something like that.
Was Lois there? Did you hang with Lois?
I did not hang with Lois.
Yeah.
I saw her and just had a fangirl moment, but no, we were just in the studio, and Mike kept telling me, "Get away from the mic."
Yeah.
Stop mouth breathing. I do that a lot.
So you're a mouth breather.
I'm a mouth breather.
Were you a mouth breather when you were in school? AKA, were you a dork when you were a kid?
No.
Okay.
I was not a dork.
You're like cool.
Well, I thought I was.
I was a dork until like 9th grade. Yeah.
Until 9th.
I believe that.
I mean, I just want to play with Ninja Turtles all the time and like fucking watch like Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, like play in the woods. That's like what I did,
Yeah.
And then thankfully I got a growth spurt and got on the basketball team in 9th grade. Whew. It would have been bad if I hadn't grown a little, idolized Michael Jordan. But well, I'm glad that you were popular when you were a kid. You probably wouldn't have talked to me. I guess I'm joking here, but we
that was a bit of a stretch.
I know,
popular.
I just got mean, but I do want to bring this up that we were talking recently and we realized that we have the same hometown and we're born in the same hospital.
Yes, we were.
Yeah,
yes,
super weird.
That was very strange.
Yeah, so that was Fort Myers, Florida, and we were at which is Lee County. And what was the hospital?
Lee Memorial Hospital.
Lee Memorial Hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's where we were born.
And that's interesting because I don't really meet people from Fort Myers, Florida. And I don't really have any ties there anymore, so it's just interesting to be living in Atlanta and be like, Fort Myers of all places,
Right, it's a weird little place. But you left when you were, what, 8 years old? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I was born in 81, and then we moved in 89. I was in 3rd grade, and my family's from Kentucky, so went back up there to hang out with the rednecks, which was interesting because that was like culture shock for me to leave because, Florida's this kind of bland. You're just kind of on a beach and...
Yeah.
Whatever, old people are around.
Yeah.
And then to go up to northern Kentucky and hear the accents and pick up the accent, obviously. But so how long were you there? You said you went there through high school?
Yeah, my whole life until, I left when I was, I guess, 17.
Yeah.
17, 18, yeah.
You still have family there?
I saw what?
Do you still have family in?
Oh, yeah. My parents still live there, and my best friend still lives there. So, yeah.
What brought them down there? Is your family just kind of from there, or do they relocate down there?
No. My father got offered a job out of college in Fort Myers, and so that's where we were living and rotting. Yeah.
Yeah, my same thing with my dad. My dad got a job there in the 70s and late 70s and moved down. Then a couple years later, John Carroll's born, which is weird because all my family's from Kentucky. Even my brother was born in Kentucky. So it's kind of weird to be born in Florida and it's like spend those early years being there because I don't feel any attachment to it. I haven't been back to Fort Myers since '89. So how is it? I mean, have you gone back recently?
I did go back recently. And it's such a strange, weird little place because in a lot of ways things are changing. There's more, it's more culturally diverse, but in a lot of ways it hasn't changed. It's like it seriously is stuck in the 80s.
Yeah.
It's like a town that found its one peak, and that's where it is. Like same fashion, same hair, same, my friends are still hanging out at their trucks drinking beer and just, yeah.
Any video game arcades?
I mean, that's how I felt about Youngstown, Ohio.
Yeah.
Oh, the video game arcades? Yeah, in the mall.
Do they have those still?
The Gold Mine.
Oh, wow. I don't remember. It's been so far.
Yeah.
But yeah, Matt grew up in Ohio, which is kind of funny because I moved to Kentucky, which wasn't very far from Ohio.
Very
so
close.
yeah, so we were kind of close there.
Yeah.
Right? Were you born in Youngstown?
No, I was born in Pittsburgh.
Oh, interesting. You're just like the Midwesterner.
Yeah, just all of that.
Like through and through.
Yeah. Living in Ohio a lot of the time. Lived in Illinois when I was infant a little bit.
Yeah.
Lived in Utah for a spell as well, too.
Interesting.
So that's just,
So how long have you been in Atlanta for now, Matt?
15 years.
Jill, how about you?
God, you're going to make me tell my age. I think I first moved here in 1989. And then I went back.
That doesn't
and forth.
necessarily tell your age
No.
at all. It's fine. Steven, are you from here?
Yeah, Southern Regional.
Okay.
I was just born and raised.
Yeah. I mean, I got here in 97, so that's not too far off, and it's only like 8 years after you got here. Not disclosing ages whatsoever. But yeah, I'm just gonna stop there. You're not gonna get. I don't feel like I'm digging the hole there. So what have you prepared for us today?
This is a story that is fiction, very fiction, based on fact. Somewhat coming of age. I'm not even sure if it's coming of age.
Way to follow the prompt there, Jill.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe it's one of those things that's kind of open to interpretation.
Well, we can talk about that after you're done reading.
All right.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. You ready?
So, yeah, you ready for this?
Yeah. Let's do it.
Sorry, we need a cue CNC Music Factory before Jill reads.
Oh.
All right. Yeah, I'll add that in later.
Add that in. Okay.
Do we need another beer first? Because
Yeah, we should probably do that. Yeah, Jill, let's get her liquored up really quick.
Oh, Lord.
All right, Jill.
You can't go back in time unless you take a journey to Fort Myers, Florida. The sleazy ABC Liquor Lounge still leans next to Perkins, which sells the best banana cream pies, and solitary old men thank their waitresses by name as they leave 50-cent tips on the table. The dive bars only serve Bud or a Bud Light to guys sporting mullets and women with their hair jacked up in mall bangs. Every winter for the Edison Pageant of Light Parade, mothers decorate strollers and promenade their babies down Main Street to commemorate the famous inventor who lived in Fort Myers during the cold months. It had been many years since I returned to the place where I was born and raised. I needed to do research for a novel, so I hopped on a plane to the land of the eternal 1980s. My parents lived in Fort Myers, as did my best friend from high school. Samantha and I reconnected on Facebook, and we made plans to get together when I came down to visit. She and I hadn't spoken or seen each other in 30 years. Before I left to meet Sammy at a nearby bar, my mom told me I had to take my little brother with me. No, I don't. I shook my head and stalked out the door. Some things just never change. In the parking lot, I noticed a car that was identical to mine. I entered the dark cafe and saw Sammy sitting on a stool at the bar. She was still dancer thin with flawless pale skin and fabulous clothes. She looked like she was 20 years old, but then again, she looked like she was 20 years old when we were in high school. We had matching cars. This was the first thing she said to me. Sammy and I share many similarities. We're about the same height and build. We're both hairdressers, vegetarian except for bacon, and we like the same music. We drank cheap white wine and caught up with each other's lives. Inevitably, we began to reminisce. When Sammy moved from Ohio and came to North Fort Myers High School, we had an instant connection. With our vintage clothes, black hair, and kabuki-style eye makeup, we were the only goth girls treading water in a putrid cesspool of rednecks and jocks. Yet Sammy reminded me that my friendship came with a price, because I liked mischief. Even the simple act of selling flowers for French Club landed us in detention. We hawked our floral wares outside the cafeteria, but no one would buy any wilted carnations. We needed a new marketing strategy. Would you like to buy a flower for $1? No? Suck my dick for $2? Our new sales pitch did not help us sell any carnations, and when Madame Benkatar heard our slogan, she gave us both detentions, regardless of the fact that Sammy wasn't even in French Club. The ultimate coup we pulled off was my idea to decorate the school. Our school mascot was the North High Red Knight. In front of the campus stood a statue wearing a silver medieval suit of armor. Clearly, it was our duty to paint it red before homecoming week. The next night Sammy spent at my house, I revealed my mastermind plan to her. We called our friend Delia and told her to meet us at the end of my street. Sammy and I snuck out of my bedroom window and ran to Delia's truck. We made a quick stop to buy paint and balloons, then drove to good old North High. Fuck you, rednecks! I stood in the back of the truck with my arm raised high and delivered a perfect throw. Red paint splattered all over the knight's crotch. Sammy let loose her balloon, but she tossed it onto the ground. She recounted the story of our second glass of wine and admitted that she felt bad for damaging the grass. Word eventually got back to the principal that we were the culprits who vandalized the school mascot. Delia and I were banned from the homecoming dance and sentenced to a month of after-school detention. Yet, we never saw Sammy in detention, and she went to the homecoming dance with my boyfriend. When we asked her how she got away unscathed, she shrugged and refused to answer. At our reunion, I confessed I was envious as well as in awe that she completely skated past any repercussions of our misadventures. No, I didn't. She looked down at her hands in her lap. Sammy took a deep breath and confessed that instead of detention, Vice Principal Jones took her into her office and beat Sammy with a wooden paddle. Miss Jones was an imposing, stern woman, and Sammy said she was scared just being alone in the room with her. She was so embarrassed, she never told a soul about it until this night, 30 years later. I was horrified and furious that someone would cause harm to my dear friend. Also, Samantha was teeny. She never weighed more than 100 pounds her whole life, even when she was pregnant. I couldn't stand the thought that someone in a position of power hit her repeatedly. Sammy wasn't a troublemaker. She just wanted to have fun with me. You should have said something. My dad would have kicked her ass. I know, Sammy said in a small voice that made me realize my words had done more harm to her. I meant that I was sorry and I adored her and couldn't stand the thought of anyone hurting her. What I did was spotlight our differences. My mom and dad were married with professional jobs and insisted that despite my wild ways, I still had to get good grades and go to college. Samantha's parents were divorced. Her dad sent a birthday card when he could remember, but that was all she ever got from him. Her mom worked 2 jobs to provide for Sammy and her sister. She didn't have time for parent conferences. Besides, Sammy worked the salad bar at the Golden Corral after school. She couldn't afford to stay for detention. During 1984, in Florida, there were over 150,000 reported incidents of paddling. This was the highest number in the nation. And statistically, children from disadvantaged homes received harsher punishments more often than their counterparts. At the time, administrators did not have to report any occurrence of corporal punishment. Sammy took the licks, and they just got away with it. Sammy and I finished our 4th glass of wine, and promised to keep in touch. She went home to her awesome husband and fabulous shoe collection. I went back to my parents, and because it was after 10 o'clock at night, my mom had locked me out. I walked around the side of the house to break into my bedroom window, as I did when I was a teenager. Then I saw a light in the den. My father was sitting in a chair, watching TV and waiting for me to come home. Some things never change.
Woo, that was really good.
Thank you.
Corporal punishment. I went to a couple schools that had that growing up.
Yeah.
I never got swatted. Did you?
I never got swatted. I got pulled in there and threatened, but I would talk my way out of it. And
Yeah.
I mean, again, I think it was an inequality. You know, my parents were together. They were active in the school, and they had my father as an attorney. So
This is a
you don't
public
mess
school
with them.
too, right?
Yeah.
Wow, because I only had it in Christian schools, but my fourth grade teacher had a paddle that was hanging from the blackboard.
Oh, yeah, I
and it
know
had
those.
holes in it.
Yeah.
And so a couple of kids got swatted with that thing. I was like, man, fuck that. I got close a couple times, but I never happened. So
My dad came home from a trip when I was a kid. I didn't see him that much because he traveled. And he was just like, I got you a gift. So I was like, oh, I mean, I'm like, I think maybe like 9 or something. And then he just like pulls a big, like one of those holed paddles out.
What?
yeah.
What?
My dad made one. My dad he made a paddle.
Holy crap!
My dad
That's
was like a home builder, and he could build furniture and stuff, and he built one. Thankfully, the
Lord.
dog we had chewed it up.
No doubt.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
like go out back and pick a switch.
Yeah.
Oh no, I got that though. I got the Switch.
You got the
thing.
switch.
Oh.
But no, I was in about 2 years ago. I think I went to Birmingham for a concert, and 2 guys in the crowd were catching up before the show started. And one of the guys was like, "Yeah, you're a principal now, right?" He's like, "Yeah, dude, at the Christian school." He was like, "So have you had to paddle a kid?" And like I got the perspective from the other guy. He's like, "Yeah, dude, it's weird. We've got 3 different paddles for like elementary, middle, and high school." And the high school is the one with the holes in it,
Yeah.
like for velocity. And then like the elementary school is like a wiffle bat. And he said he really tried to put it off for a while, hitting kids with these paddles. And he said the first time he had to do it, he called the kid's dad and he said, "Hey man, your kid messed up, so like I'm supposed to give him like 10 hits." And the dad was like, "Shit, well he know what he did, beat him." And that was the end of it. So
Wow.
never had to deal
Wow.
with that. But yeah,
Wow.
It's insane.
weird.
Well, as much as I would love to talk about getting swats when I was a child, let's talk about Florida. I mean,
Okay, let's talk about Florida.
You know, we talked about how we were from the same town, and then
Yeah.
your story is about it. Mine's actually, it's about the house that I lived in Florida, in Fort Myers. But yeah, when you mentioned like the Edison Center, I mean, I lived right down the street. I mean,
Oh yeah, you did.
did I lived off? I mean, did you live off McGregor Boulevard? Because I feel like
No. I lived in like more of the trashy part of town. 'Cause
So did I live in the nice part?
yeah, you lived in the nice part.
Oh, okay, I
Yeah.
have no idea like about
No.
Fort Myers at all.
No, like when I went to high school, it really was, rednecks or nothing. It was just like,
Yeah.
yeah. And Fort Myers is the mud and capital of the nation. Did you know
Really?
that? Yeah,
I didn't know
it
that.
is. It is.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I guess my dad had a pretty good job because he moved down there to work at an architectural firm, and then as early as I can remember, he was the president of it, and they were killing it. I mean, they were
Oh, wow.
rocking and rolling. And like my mom, I remember going out to Sanibel Island all the
Yeah.
time with my mom, and then I had a neighbor, and his dad moved them out to Pine Island. And they built some like gigantic house, and I remember going out there, and they had like a crazy stream that went through the island. They were catching like blowfish and just crazy shit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was very weird childhood, but I mean, I have fond memories, minus the story I'm about to read. But it was a very interesting like upbringing to be in Florida as a kid.
Yeah.
So how does a place become the Mudden capital?
How does it become the mud and capital? Well, I'm not really sure. I just know that. Do you know what muddin is?
Yeah, why don't you explain Mudden just for the audience?
Please do. Yeah.
Mud is when these guys go out with their trucks to this big like mud pit and drive around in it They're mudding.
That's awesome.
That's it. Yeah.
By awesome, I mean why?
I have no idea. I have never been mudding. My little brother has.
This is the
I have
pit.
not.
They're not even like on a track or anything.
I don't think so. I think they're just driving around in this mud. Like I said, I've never been to it.
I had
too
a
crazy for
roommate
me.
who used to do that. Him and his brother would go out doing that, but I think they were doing it in North Georgia. I think they were like driving around in the woods.
Maybe it was something like that.
Yeah,
I'm
they
not
got
sure.
their truck stuck out there one time. They were doing that shit. I'm like, what are you?
Failed mudding.
I know.
Yeah, exactly.
Failed mudding.
Yeah.
So I want to bring it back to the question we were kind of being posed with before you started reading, Jyll, which is it a coming of age story? I think it is.
Okay.
I mean, you got high school students in a coup. Like it to me, that's very much a coming of age story.
Also, the fact that you're also like narrating from an older version of yourself, which is very coming of age story. You know, I mean, like in
Older.
in Stand By Me, you know, it's always like this narration of, you know, it's like the Christmas story, you know.
Older in the metaphysical sense.
Yeah, you've got.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in the metaphysical. I'm not.
Yeah.
Why are you? I feel like you're just like making this about your age. I don't feel like I'm doing this. I feel like
The protagonist is now wiser and looking
Yeah,
back.
Yeah.
exactly. I feel like you're just projecting that onto me. I mean, I'm sorry that you're 39.
Dude.
There's nothing I can do about that.
Aren't you sweet, honey?
I'm trying
Aren't you
here.
sweet? Yeah.
I think wise was the word to use. I think that's a good stopping
That was
point.
good.
I don't know. Wise. It's just kind of like when you say something's interesting and it really means it's stupid.
It's like bless your heart.
Bless your heart.
I mean,
yes.
you're an asshole.
Yeah.
You're stupid. Bless
Yeah.
your heart. Well, I really enjoyed it. Definitely brought me back because I understood some of the things that you were talking about in terms of locale. So I thought it was cool. I was like, oh shit, I forgot the Edison Center was
Yeah.
down the street from my house. We used to
Yeah.
like walk and ride our bikes up there.
Or the ABC Liquor Lounge. That was like this dark, scary place that we always wanted to go, but no, they're real strict on carding. So
Yeah.
and I don't think I went there last time I was there.
Is that just is it
think so.
is it an ABC store, a liquor store with a bar built into it?
Yeah.
I've been to one of those
Shady.
in Panama City Beach, which I'd never even heard of that until
Yeah.
you know, like 5 or 6 years ago, and went to one, and they had like a pool table. You can like buy drinks at the bar, but then you're heading out the door. You're like, yeah, I guess I'll pick up a case. You know? Yeah, I mean, it was super
Yeah.
weird, but
It's super shady.
but I mean,
Yeah. Love
it's
it.
it's very Florida.
It is very
Yeah,
Florida.
that's a good
awesome.
way to describe Florida.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
It's like right next to the airbrush shack. You know,
Yes. Yes.
go get your airbrush hats made.
Right.
I want a Fort Myers, Florida, like airbrushed hat. That'd be awesome.
You do?
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of want anything.
Like you'll
Fort
say,
Myers,
my
Florida.
eyes are up here.
Yeah. Especially as a guy, that'd be pretty awesome.
Yeah,
to wear that.
exactly.
You'll be
Exactly.
Like, what? Like, never mind.
All right,
Never mind.
I'll totally make it happen.
Yeah, like I stole this from my mom. What?
That makes it cool.
Yeah, it just makes it even weirder. So
So I think we should get into our last reader.
yeah, that guy's a real asshole.
Yes.
Well,
So John,
You have some questions. Go ahead.
well, I feel like you've already kind of given already a little bit of an intro to your piece. It's Florida based.
it is Florida based. It's you know, it ranges from the age of about 5 years old to about 8 years old when I lived in this house, and it's a it could almost be on a Halloween podcast because it is a kind of it's a haunted house story because I grew up in a very haunted house in Florida, and take that with a grain of salt or however you choose to believe in hauntings. I don't even quite understand, but the story actually kind of like plays off the idea of like a different perception on a haunted house. And so it's cool. I wrote this story a number of years ago, but I've gone back to it often because over the years, people were always asking me to tell my haunted house stories, and I reference some of them here, and it was just kind of cool to get it down on paper, you know, just to be like, oh, this exists. I have this story, and I feel like it's a poetic way to kind of wrap up what I felt like was happening at that time in my life as a child. So, yeah.
Well, all right.
Well, I name all my pieces, and this piece is called We Haunt the Places We No Longer Call Home. We moved in on a typical hot summer day and spent the week settling in. The bedrooms didn't need much work, so my mother decided to start gathering wallpaper samples to let my brother and I choose what theme our respective rooms would entail. Along with the master bedroom, the playroom, and a guest bedroom, there was a lot of wallpaper to be decided upon. Each room had a certain feel that would seem to make the decision easy, but the guest bedroom had an energy about it. It exuded a certain kind of feeling. Unfortunately, it was the kind of feeling you get when someone's hiding behind the closet door. The room smelled of a burnt musk, and no matter how many air fresheners my mother sprayed or decorative candles she lit, the smell of burning always lingered. Years later, I found out that my mother would never enter the room alone. Its door always kept shut while my brother and I played in the foyer of the upstairs landing. For the years that we lived there, we always avoided the top of the stairs, first door on the right. With South Florida being on the verge of a real estate boom, a new Sherwin-Williams paint and wallpaper chain was built down the street from our house. The young woman who assisted my mother was bright and sweet and was working her way through college. They spent the afternoon picking out bright colors and fun patterns for each room, quickly becoming fast friends. After making final decisions on all the wallpaper and placing the order, the young lady laughed as she apologized to my mother for not asking her where she had just moved in. My mom smiled as she told her about the big white house that sat on the corner of Linwood Avenue. "Do you know which one I'm talking about?" she said. Tears started streaming down the face of the young woman as her legs buckled. My mother caught her and pulled her over to a nearby chair. After calming her down, she proceeded to tell my mother that her boyfriend once lived there with his parents. They were engaged to be married, but not before he crashed and burned to death in a car accident the previous year. They had dated throughout high school, and she was close with the family before the tragic event. Not to mention, she spent many nights in our new house before he moved in. Top of the stairs, first door on the right. The burning room. I'm not quite sure when my parents started fighting. I just remember cowering behind my bed with my brother while our parents gutted each other with obscenities and destroyed themselves with rage. Physical contact was never made when they waged war, but their souls took the brunt of the emotional shrapnel as the walls and china cabinet absorbed the majority of the external damage. Shortly thereafter, my older brother's bedroom would erupt with screams after bedtime from bad dreams and bumps in the night. He swears to this day that something was coming for him. The physical manifestation in his mind was a young girl's doll that was kept locked in an antique hutch on the first floor. Claims were made that he would hear her small feet pitter-patter on the hardwood floors and would listen intently to her struggling to climb the stairs to the second floor where we slept. The reality of what was coming for us was much more stark and still haunts me in the dark places of my mind when I should be sleeping. Soon my brother wasn't alone, and the whole family believed. After a peaceful night of watching Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy in the downstairs TV room, we all heard noises coming from the second floor. My father grabbed a hammer as we followed him slowly down the hall to the staircase that led to where my brother and I slept. He shouted threats up the stairs, but there was no reply, as our line of sight was blocked by the wall that turned with the staircase, and as we all stood in silence waiting, the noise reappeared. My father carefully walked up the stairs as though he was dodging mines on a battlefield, and gave us one last glance as he turned past the wall to ascend the final few steps. The shifting of his weight caused each step to creak, the old wood letting out screams from a century of service. My father cursed under his breath as he surveyed the upstairs landing. Though it was illuminated, each one of the 5 rooms were dark, and just as he was about to chalk it up to a squirrel running across the roof, a remote-control car creeped out of my bedroom and slowly rolled to his feet. He paused for a moment, trying to process what had just happened before he reached down and picked up the replica race car and flipped it over. Light in his hand, he realized that the batteries had been removed. "Must be squirrels on the roof," he said, as he walked back down the stairs, guiding us safely to the confines of the TV room. With my parents' knowledge that we weren't alone in our historical fixer-upper, they had something new to argue about. My mother was raised in a religious yet liberal household with church on Sunday mornings and tarot card readings on Friday nights, so the supernatural was nothing new to her. My father, being an atheist, argued that everything had some sort of logical explanation, yet neither of them could explain their animosity towards one another. My father moved out on a Friday. He was only staying a few miles down the road and promised to see us on the weekends. It was an unexpected scare that was more frightening than any late-night noises that woke us up, leaving us wondering what was coming for us. It was quite the opposite. This was very real, and he was really gone. I still have a third-person image in my mind of my brother and I crying our eyes out on the couch, our mother trying to comfort us as we dealt with our first bout of loss. This image could rival any melodramatic scene in a Stephen King novel. My parents were only separated for a few months before my father eventually moved back in. But during the time that he was gone, there were many more events that occurred that left any of our friends reluctant to spend the night. Shadowy figures in the yard, heavy footsteps in the hallway, breathy whispers in our ears as we slept, and objects moving about the house. After my father moved home, something changed, though. Arguments turned into conversations. Planned verbal attacks became compliments and words of affirmation. Tension returned to trust. They even bought a new china set. And as my parents began to restore their marriage, so it was with the house. Dad spent weekends rewiring electrical outlets and fixing the roof, and Mom refinished the floors and hung new window treatments. Once again, nights were spent watching obnoxious game shows and laugh-track sitcoms. We moved out of the big white house, which my parents eventually painted yellow, by the end of the year. In Kentucky, my grandfather was dying, and my grandmother needed us. It also seemed like we had all learned our lessons and survived our own tropical storms. It was time to move on. Kentucky was cold, and my classmates had funny accents, but my teachers were nice. I got to spend time with my grandfather before he passed on, and comfort my grandmother when he did. Not to mention, my parents actually seemed happy. Overall, I settled into living in Kentucky after only a few months. But in retrospect, the only thing that seems odd was that my parents decided to rent a house that also resided on a Linwood Avenue.
Wow, John. That was really good.
Thanks, man. That's my Florida and Kentucky story. But, I took about 90% of that is true. I kind of took some, fiction liberties. All the haunted house stuff, that was true, though.
Oh, seriously? Like the race car?
The race car is very true.
That reminded me of something that happened when I was younger. I was the older brother, and I got two younger brothers.
Yeah.
So I always had my own room, which is great. But one night, one of my brothers knocked on my door. He said, "Hey, man, there's something in the closet. I don't know what to do."
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, well, I guess this is my responsibility as the oldest. And I walk in there, and the closet's glowing red.
What?
And there's a sound which would be hilarious in the daytime. It was horrifying. It sounded like a turkey.
Yeah.
But distorted. It was gobble, 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 gobble.
Yeah.
Gobble, gobble, gobble. But the closet's glowing red, and I'm like, holy shit. And I'm like 10 at this point. I'm like, I don't know what to do about this. So I knock on my parents' door, and they're like, Jesus, what? And I'm like, there's the closet's glowing red. There's a demon turkey. I need assistance here. And my stepdad, he turned the light on, which I didn't think to do. And he went in there, and he found that it was a Buzz Lightyear doll that my brother had brought into the bathroom with him. And he didn't realize it was electronic, so he couldn't put it in water. And the red light was just his glowing little laser on his arm.
That's great.
And it horrified us for a good 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But it had an actual explanation. It wasn't, just...
Yeah, I mean, that the race car thing, I mean, the things that I just added in there were just kind of I was taking stories that my parents had told me about talking to the lady at the wallpaper store. And
filling out details.
Yeah, I just filled out details. But I mean, all that shit was real. And even when we went to Kentucky, we rented a house that was on Linwood. And I was like, really? The whole story was just ridiculous. But, I took the approach of, my parents kind of fighting and their animosity. And the energy behind that is something that fueled the force of what was actually happening there. Which I felt like was more... I kind of enjoyed that take on it, opposed to it, because I feel like it was, whether there were ghosts there before or not, I definitely feel like that made things worse, you know? So, but yeah, interesting story. The house is no longer haunted. They had it cleansed and cleared and stuff before they moved. So, before we moved when I was a kid.
How'd they cleanse it?
They had a priest come in and anoint the doors and do all this stuff. My mom claims that. I mean, my parents are pretty interesting because they're not liars and they're not crazy. My mom still claims that she saw a white orb fly out of the house.
Wow.
When all this stuff was happening, when they were cleansing it.
Did they have to pay the priest to cleanse it?
I don't believe so.
Damn, I almost had an idea for a good side hustle.
I know. We should do that. No, they did.
I think they made a movie about that.
Yeah, it was a pretty pastor. My parents had started going to church and things like that, which was interesting. But they ultimately did get divorced, though.
Oh, so okay, haunted or not.
Yeah, but no, it was I really like that. But thanks for letting me share that.
I don't think it was a coming of age story, though.
You don't think it was a coming of age?
No.
So hers was and mine wasn't?
No, I mean...
I win.
Well, you got learning to play an instrument.
Yeah.
You got that as like the protagonist, like the thing that's bringing on change, the bringing that is the pathway to some type of change. You have all of the antics of at the school and all of the conflict that those happen that comes with that. And then with yours, I didn't, basically the thing of change was the house.
True, but you've obviously never lived in a haunted house because that changes you. Boom! Lawyer.
Okay. So, John, do you think that the haunting exacerbated your parents' relationship, or do you think your relationship brought about the haunting?
That's a really good question. I think that the elements that caused the haunting were kind of already there, but I think that them fighting. I don't know. I think it was probably a little bit of both. Now that I think about it, I think they equally fueled each other. So, but that's an interesting thought that I've never really thought about before. That's cool. But whether this was a coming of age story or not, Matt, I mean, I think you guys would have rather heard this one than the one about searching for porn at construction sites. So
I don't know.
It's really relatable. Like, I called it forest porn for a reason. Like, we would go out in like suburbia and hunt for it. Like, it was actually a thing. So I don't know. Like, either or.
I scanned it before we started. It was pretty old. I didn't really like it. So
yeah, I mean, I think. Is that what you read at Right Club years ago?
No, that was kind of the same mindset, because that's the one where I talk about licking all the pages of a porno magazine when I was 5.
I got confused with the porno references.
This is very old, and actually,
great.
it was my next door neighbor in Florida. His dad would leave out all of his Playboys, and we were just like, we were so young, but I remember he would lick the pages, and it was super, like, it's super weird.
Man,
like,
that's weird.
That's
when
weird.
I was writing that story, I thought of that, and I was like, oh, I gotta put that in a story. And that room erupted. I still lost, but the room erupted, and they thought it was so funny. So, but anyway, that was fun to share. Thank you all for letting me read it on my own podcast. Hey,
Anytime.
yeah,
No problem.
Thanks for having me. Hopefully I'll come back soon.
Yeah, I hope I
Yeah.
come back to your place.
Well, I guess we should be wrapping up here. Steven, do you have anything that you want to plug or anything coming up?
I'm not doing anything. I have a friend who wrote a book that might be out in like 2030, so check that out when it gets here eventually.
Be on the lookout for it.
Sure.
Yeah,
It'll be everywhere except Snapchat.
everywhere.
Jill, you have anything that you want to plug?
I don't have anything coming up, sadly, and I'm still working on my novel that actually takes place in Fort Myers.
Oh, wow.
So, gotta stop running around and write.
I'll buy a copy of it.
Okay.
So need that great Fort Myers novel. You know.
John, you have anything you want to plug?
I don't think so, Matt. We've got some things coming up, but these are
out of order. It'd be weird.
Yeah, we don't even know, but just stay
we're just
tuned.
time traveling.
Always check the site. Always check Lit&Bruised.com for the events on the event page, and check out our archive page that has different recordings and also has one of Jyll Thomas on there currently, so you can check out reading she did at Case Studies. Stephen Williams will also have one up there probably sooner than later as well. But always check out the site for different recordings and events that are happening, different readings that are happening in the Atlanta area. Thank you all, guests, for coming on.
Thank
we really
you.
appreciate you all.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Matt, what do you have? You have any final words?
No, just thanks for listening.
Don't die dumb?
Yeah, don't die dumb.
That should be your sign off.
Yeah, that's forever it. Don't die dumb.
Don't die dumb. Thank you all for listening. Take care.